Hello, good morning. And today on our A to Z of Office 365, we're going to be looking at Excel data. A lot of people are trying to do Excel spreadsheets and they say to me they can't get them to sort or to filter properly. Or they might be trying to do a pivot table and it's not working. And before we even look at the sorting, the filtering, I always start with the data. How is your data laid out? If you get that bit right, everything else will start to work. Okay, so let me give you an example. Just going to go into Excel, bear with me a moment. So here's an example of a spreadsheet. And this is the kind of examples somebody might be using. We're using it to record all of our latest contacts. And if you're trying to sort it, you're going to come up against a few problems. The first one, namely, is the blank rows. So if we look at column B and also row 2. So there's blanks within the data. And one thing Excel doesn't like is to have gaps. Because as far as Excel is concerned, when it reaches a gap, it thinks your data stops there. I'll give you an example of that. So I'm going to click in a cell and I'm going to use my Control and A key. Now what Control and A should do is it should highlight everything in the data, but it hasn't. It's missing the headings, it's missing that first column because the blanks are separating it. Let me just show you what happens if I remove those blank columns and rows. So I'm going to remove row 2. Remember, to remove a row, we right click on the row number and then choose delete. And we're going to remove the column. And to remove the column, we right click on the column letter and choose delete. Okay. So now I've got rid of all those blanks. And if I click on my data, that's really important. Make sure your cursor is in your data and do Control and A. Can you see the difference? This time it's highlighted all my data. It's picking up everything around the cell cursor. So I know my data is good. That way I know if I put a filter on or I sort my data, it will include everything in my list. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to have a look at some of the other columns. The other columns that concerns me are the dates. So if you look at this inquiry date column, it's very neat. All my dates are aligned on the right-hand side. But if we look at the follow-up column, you'll see that some of the dates are aligned on the right and some of them are aligned on the left. And the problem is, because the dates of the 5th of May and the 4th of May have been typed incorrectly, Excel is not understanding they're a date, as Excel thinks it's text. And that is why your dates have been put on the right, because it understands them. Anything it doesn't understand, it treats as text and it puts on the left-hand side. So if I was to do a filter using this column, it wouldn't be able to sort them by date order because it doesn't understand they are actually a date. Just have a look at any of your spreadsheets. Have a look. Are you using dots instead of dates? Have you used the little abbreviations on the months like TH, ND, ST? Take them off. The best way to enter a date is using the forward slashes, or I could enter a date without the THs and just put for May. So I'm going to change these dates. So we're going to put in 5/5/20. And it does pick up the fact that it's 2020. You don't need to type 2020 in full. And you'll see it's now moved that date over to the right-hand side. So same with the 4th of May. So I'm going to put 4/5/20. Okay, press enter and it will move it over to the right-hand side. Excel understands it. So now if I was to sort those dates in date order, chronological order, it would enable me, it would recognize them and it would do it. So if you take one thing away from this video, go back at your date and look at your data and look at how your dates are entered. A lot of this comes down to the data entry. Okay, the other thing we can do with our table is we can make our data into a table. And this is really useful. So I'm going to click anywhere in my data. And then I'm going to find the format as columns. I'll just mark this on here for you. sorry, Format as Table button. That's up here. And the Format as Table button is really, really useful. So if I click in my data, click on Format as Table, and it says to me, how would you like your data? What color layout would you like? And some of these are really good. So some of them, they have every other row is a different color, which makes it very easy for you to read. So I'm going to choose this blue one. Okay. Put a dotted line just to check that that's my data. It's also worth looking at this box here. Just be careful. It has ticked the box, my table has headers. So basically this is recognizing that I've put the headers in myself. If it hadn't got headers, I'd need to put them in. Choose OK. So what it's done is put in, it's color coded it, which is fantastic. I don't know if you can see, it's actually put filters in for me. I didn't do anything to add them in. And everything included in the table is now formatted. And the advantage of this is if I add in some extra data, as you see, when I add in extra data, it expands the table to accommodate that. So I know that extra data is being included. Now, if I wanted to also add in an extra column, so I'm going to add in an extra column here, and I'm going to put in telephone number, press enter, and my table will automatically expand to include that data. And I've now got an extra column with telephone number that has got a filter on. I didn't need to do anything. One other thing I can do with tables, which I find really useful, is I don't need to worry about freezing rows or freezing headings. Because if I click in my table and I drag down, you'll see the headings stay in place. And that is all to do with it being made a table. So what are the points we can take away from this? Well, let's just go back to the PowerPoint and have a look. Okay, so here's some guides to preparing data. Don't have any blank rows or blank columns within your data. Keep the data the same in each column. Label every column, so give it a good heading so you know what it's about. Don't merge cells within your data. The problem there is if you've merged a cell, when you want to do a filter, that data then doesn't belong to any cell because it goes over two. And finally, make your data into a table. This will make it much easier to work with, and the table will expand automatically. Your filters will be put in, and you will then find other tasks you go on to do in Excel will be much easier. If you want to find out any more about our training sessions, or you want to know more on data and tables, these are some of our contact details. Subscribe to our channel and keep a lookout for more tutorials. Thanks very much for listening. Bye-bye.